If you think Denmark is a small country, you're completely wrong. It's a powerful Arctic empire in hiding. Most of us are fooled by ordinary geographical maps. This kingdom is not behind the European powers, but is actually the 12th largest country in the world, and its land area is 6 times that of Germany. Within this single kingdom, 3 extremes intersect. The modern pace of futuristic cities, the unspoiled beauty of islands in the ocean, and the chilling stillness of the polar regions. Join us on a journey through layers of grandeur to discover an entity far more complex and magnificent than any preconceived notion. Denmark continues to assert its position as one of the most livable places on the planet, ranking highly on the global happiness map. According to the 2025 World Happiness Report, Denmark is ranked as the 2nd happiest country on Earth, just behind Finland, a nation that has topped the list for several years. The secret behind this title lies not simply in a prosperous economy, but also in the perfect combination of a superior social welfare system, absolute trust between people, and especially the unique Hygge philosophy of life. This helps the Danish people maintain a state of balance and contentment despite living in the harsh Nordic region. Hygge is not just a word, but the soul of this kingdom's culture, representing the art of finding warmth and serenity in the simplest things. Amidst the long and harsh Nordic winters, Danes choose to savor the moment, the flickering candlelight on a quiet evening, the gentle bitterness of a hot cup of coffee, or the soft feel of an old woolen scarf. More profoundly, Hygge is about fully being present, a moment of genuine connection between people without the pressures of haste. It is this minimalist yet spiritually rich philosophy that helps them transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, creating a strong psychological shield to maintain lasting inner happiness over the years. A paradox that has astonished the world is the willingness of Danish citizens to pay enormous taxes, often amounting to 50 to 60% of their personal income. However, instead of viewing this as a financial burden, they consider it a membership fee to operate a civilized and fair society. The secret to this voluntary participation lies in the from cradle to death welfare system that the government is committed to implementing. Here, healthcare is completely free, and education is a privilege regardless of wealth. In fact, Danish students not only receive free education, but also a monthly salary from the government to focus on their studies. With all basic worries about illness, unemployment, or tuition fees covered by a superior social security system, the pressures of life for citizens are reduced to a minimum. It is this unwavering trust in the government and a sense of security about the future that has transformed dry tax figures into a solid foundation for lasting peace of mind and happiness. Besides its modern values, Denmark also preserves a glorious history with a proud symbol, the Dannebrog. The oldest national flag in the world still in use today. According to legend, during the Battle of Lindesnes in 1219 in Estonia, when the Danish army was on the verge of collapse, the red flag with a white cross miraculously fell from the sky, giving them the strength to achieve a glorious victory. For over 8 centuries, the Dannebrog has not only been a political or military symbol, but has become an integral part of the soul of every family. Danish people cherish the flag as a sacred gift from heaven. They use it to celebrate birthdays, welcome relatives at the airport, or decorate at intimate parties. It is this humble yet revered appearance that has transformed the oldest national flag on the planet into a symbol of enduring connection, love, and national pride. If the Dannebrog flies proudly high in the sky like a gift from God, then the land beneath it reveals a beauty that is humble and astonishingly flat. Unlike the sheer cliffs of the Faroe Islands or the icy peaks of Greenland, mainland Denmark is completely mountainless. The terrain is incredibly flat, to the point that the highest point in the country, Mount Mullahoy, rises only about 561 feet above sea level. This is lower than many skyscrapers around the world. This means you can simply stand on a bench and take in the entire surrounding landscape. While there are no towering peaks to conquer, this absolute flatness transforms Denmark into a lush green labyrinth of vast fields. Denmark may lack towering mountains, but it has never lacked grand visions. The clearest proof of this is that Denmark is home to Lego, the toy empire that has changed the way the world plays and creates. Few know that this powerful name is actually a clever combination of the Danish phrase "leg godt," meaning simply but inspiringly, play well. The modern-day fairy tale of this brand didn't begin in glamorous offices, but originated in a small carpentry workshop in the town of Billund in the 1930s. Here, scraps of wood were transformed into sophisticated toys before evolving into interlocking plastic bricks. From a peaceful rural workshop, Lego has risen to become one of the most powerful brands on the planet, appearing in the childhoods of billions of people. If Billund is where dreams are built from small pieces, then Copenhagen is where the greatest dreams of a futuristic city have become a glorious reality. A great green laboratory of the world, where the fairy tale spirit of Hans Christian Andersen still blends harmoniously with the innovative movements of the 21st century. It is the political and cultural heart of Denmark, but it moves very differently from most European capitals. Instead of bustling traffic and constant noise, Copenhagen operates on the gentle rhythm of pedaling. Here, bicycles have become the vital lifeblood of the city. With a network of dedicated lanes stretching over 250 miles, cycling is the fastest and most efficient way to traverse the city. Its design leads directly to Nyhavn, a historic harbor built in the 17th century to connect the royal square Kongens Nytorv with the sea. The canal was originally dug by Swedish prisoners of war, creating a functioning harbor that became the center of Copenhagen's maritime life. Along the canal were rows of narrow houses painted in shades of brick red, earthy yellow, and blue. This was once a way for illiterate sailors to easily find their way back home or to their lodgings after long sea voyages. One of these buildings, number 20, was once home to Hans Christian Andersen, where he wrote his earliest fairy tales while watching ships pass through the harbor. Today, the same waterfront connects to Copenhagen's modern identity through structures like Sikkelslangen, the Snake Bridge, a curved bicycle-only bridge that carries riders smoothly across the water. Unlike many royal palaces around the world, which are typically built as a single, massive structure, Amalienborg is designed as a balanced complex of 4 identical palaces arranged around an octagonal plaza, creating a space that is both dignified and humane. Each of these buildings plays a distinct role in the life of the Danish monarchy. One of the palaces served as the official residence of Queen Margrethe II, who stepped down in the early months of 2024, marking the end of a historic era. However, Amalienborg is still operational, and that becomes clear every day at precisely 12 noon, when the royal lifeguards march into the square in their bear fur hats. The changing of the guard ceremony, a discipline and tradition that has shaped the Danish monarchy for centuries, is performed with great care. When the king is in the palace, the guard is accompanied by a full royal band, transforming the ceremony into a public display of national identity. And if the Dannebrog flag flies over the palace, it means the king is inside. In the center of the square stands the equestrian statue of King Frederik V, a bronze sculpture so exquisitely crafted that it is said its construction cost exceeded the combined cost of building all 4 palaces. The architecture, the ceremonies, and the expansive square have made Amalienborg one of the finest examples of Rococo design in Northern Europe, and one of the few royal complexes in the world that still retains a strong sense of life. Along the edge of Copenhagen's harbor sits a small bronze figure that has become one of the most recognized symbols of Denmark around the world. The Little Mermaid, standing just over 4 feet tall, was unveiled in the early years of the 20th century and was inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's famous story, The Little Mermaid, first written in the 1830s. Unlike the cheerful animated version known today, Andersen's original tale is deeply tragic, telling the story of a young mermaid who sacrifices everything for love, only to lose the prince and dissolve into sea foam. That bittersweet ending is quietly reflected in the statue's distant gaze, which looks out toward the water as if still waiting for something that never came. From that literary shoreline, the city's spirit shifts toward a different kind of wonder inside Tivoli Gardens, one of the oldest amusement parks on Earth, which first opened its gates in the 1840s. Tivoli became so influential that Walt Disney visited it repeatedly while shaping his vision for Disneyland. Drawn to the way fantasy, music, and everyday life blend together inside its glowing gardens. Rising quietly above Copenhagen's rooftops stands Rundetårn, the Round Tower, one of the oldest working astronomical observatories in Europe. During the 1700s, Danish astronomy flourished under the legacy of Tycho Brahe, whose work helped change how humanity understood the heavens. Inside the tower, there are no stairs. Instead, a long brick-paved spiral ramp winds upward for more than 680 feet, circling the core of the building more than 7 full turns. This unusual design allowed horses and wagons to carry heavy telescopes, scientific instruments, and rare books all the way to the top, turning the tower into a moving laboratory aimed at the sky. Stepping beyond the boundaries of modernity, the heart of Copenhagen hides a completely different space. Freetown Christiania, a self-governing neighborhood founded in the early 1970s by a group of hippies who wanted to build an alternative society based on art, freedom, and shared space. Murals, handmade houses, and open communal areas give this district a character unlike anywhere else in Denmark. Across the city, another symbol quietly ties these contrasts together: the white, mute swan, Denmark's national bird. Gliding through the lakes of Copenhagen and the palace waters of Zealand, these birds add a sense of calm and dignity to the landscape, reinforcing the peaceful, understated elegance that defines the Danish way of life. As the harbor lights of Copenhagen faded, our journey continued deeper into Zealand, Denmark's largest and most populous island. This is the land of Viking legends, where ancient castles stand majestically against the test of time, telling the story of one of Europe's oldest dynasties. At the point where proud royal power meets the breath of the ocean, Kronborg Castle rises majestically against the sky above Helsingør. Situated at the narrowest point of the Øresund Strait, it is not only an architectural masterpiece but also a living monument, where stories of national prosperity and the legendary plays of Shakespeare seem to whisper in every wave crashing against the cliffs. For hundreds of years, every ship sailing between the North Sea and the Baltic had to pass through this narrow channel, close enough for the castle's cannons to reach. From this position, Denmark collected tolls from vessels moving between Europe's great ports, turning a single stretch of water into one of the most profitable choke points in maritime history. Over time, the original fortress was transformed by King Frederick II into a grand Renaissance palace, crowned with tall spires, green copper roofs, and richly detailed that announced Denmark's power to the world. Kronborg is also known far beyond Scandinavia as the real-life setting of Elsinore, the castle in William Shakespeare's tragedy Hamlet. A story that is still performed here each year in the very courtyards where it was imagined to take place. Amidst the gentle currents of Zealand's history, Frederiksborg Castle stands as a magnificent emerald gem nestled within the embrace of lakes and lush gardens. Often called the Versailles of the North, it spreads across 3 small islands in the middle of a palace lake, where its towers and green copper roofs are mirrored in the water. Built as the largest Renaissance palace in Northern Europe, Frederiksborg was designed as a royal residence and is a symbol of power and sophistication. In the late 1900s, the castle became the home of Denmark's national history. Walking through its halls now is like moving through time, with portraits, gold-trimmed furniture, hand-woven tapestries, and works of art telling the story of the country across more than 5 centuries. After a devastating fire in the late 1850s destroyed much of the interior, the castle was restored through the support of J.C. Jacobsen, the founder of Carlsberg, allowing Frederiksborg to return almost exactly as it once was. Today, it stands not only as a royal palace, but as a living archive of Denmark's past. But Roskilde is even more special. History is present in the salty scent of ancient warships and the majestic appearance of the royal cathedral. Starting from Roskilde Church, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the first Gothic brick church built in Northern Europe. Inside, more than 40 Danish kings and queens rest in elaborate tombs crafted from marble and stone, each one reflecting the artistic style and royal identity of its time, turning the church into a silent chronicle of the monarchy itself. Not far from there, the Viking Ship Museum houses some of the oldest surviving fragments of the kingdom's memory. Here, 5 original Viking vessels, known as the Skuldelev ships, were recovered from the floor of Roskilde Fjord. They had been deliberately sunk in the 1100s to block enemy fleets, forming a wooden barrier that once protected the city from invasion and revealed how seriously the Vikings understood the power of the sea. The intimate relationship between water and time reaches its spectacular climax at Mønsklint, where towering white chalk cliffs rise more than 420 feet above the blue Baltic Sea and stretch for nearly 4 miles along the coast. Formed from the compressed remains of ancient sea life dating back more than 70 million years, these cliffs allow visitors to walk along the beach below and find fossils of creatures that once swam in prehistoric oceans. When night falls, the area becomes one of the darkest places in Europe. with virtually no light pollution, making the Milky Way visible in stunning detail. High above the cliffs, peregrine falcons, the fastest birds on Earth, nest along the sheer rock faces, completing a landscape where geology, history, and living wildlife all meet. In the heart of Denmark lies Funen, often called the Garden of the Country, a place where rolling farmland, apple orchards, and thatched roof cottages create a landscape that feels untouched by time. This is also the birthplace of Hans Christian Andersen, and the rhythm of his stories still seems woven into the countryside, where quiet roads lead past small villages that look as though they stepped straight out of a book. The island's cultural center is Odense, one of Denmark's oldest cities, and the place where Andersen was born. Much of the city is shaped around his legacy, turning streets, canals, and courtyards into a kind of living museum. At its heart stands the H.C. Andersen Museum, designed by the Japanese architect Kengo Kuma, where curved wooden structures rise gently from lush gardens, creating a space that feels more like a story. Just a few steps away, Odense Town Hall stands majestically, casting its reflection onto Flackhaven Square. With its minimalist lines characteristic of the Nordic style, this building serves as a cultural anchor. And behind the dreamy beauty of its literary heritage, Odense remains a vibrant city, where the modern Danish rhythm continues harmoniously every day. Beyond the city, Frederiksborg Castle emerges from the middle of a lake, often described as the most beautiful water fortress in Europe. Built in the 1500s, its foundations were said to require an entire oak forest to support the heavy stone walls, giving the castle its name, which means oak forest. Inside the grounds stands the Titania's Palace, one of the most elaborate dollhouses ever created, built over more than a decade for the daughter of an English officer. Around it, hedge mazes and herb gardens stretch across the estate, forming a landscape that blends history and the quiet elegance of Funen's countryside. Beneath the salty breezes blowing in from the fjords, memories of the glorious Viking Age are not confined to museums, but seem to come alive alongside futuristic architectural masterpieces of glass and steel. On the eastern coast of the Jutland Peninsula, Aarhus stands as Denmark's second-largest city. Known as the City of Smiles, it blends the energy of tens of thousands of students with more than 1,000 years of Viking history, creating a place where innovation and tradition exist side by side. At the center of this cultural life rises the Aarhus Art Museum, where visitors step into your rainbow panorama, a sweeping glass walkway that curves for nearly 500 feet above the city. As you walk amidst the colors, Aarhus below transforms with each step, turning the streets, rooftops, and harbor waters into a vibrant tapestry. Inside the museum, more than 10 floors of galleries trace Danish art from its golden age to contemporary global works, anchored by the towering sculpture Boy. A lifelike figure more than 16 feet tall that seems to watch quietly over the space. Not far from there, the Den Gamle by Open Air Museum offers a completely different journey. Brings together more than 75 historic buildings moved from across Denmark and reassembled to recreate everyday life from earlier centuries. Nearby, the Mosgard Museum blends into the surrounding forest with a grass-covered sloping roof, housing one of Denmark's most extraordinary artifacts, the Grauball Mon, a naturally preserved bog body from the Iron Age, dating back more than 2,300 years. And just beyond the city, Marcellisborg Deer Park opens into a quiet green landscape where herds of deer move freely. Visitors can walk among them without fences or barriers, watching the animals move calmly through forests and open meadows. It feels less like a zoo and more like stepping into a piece of Denmark's natural past. Crossing through the ancient trees at Mosgard, Aarhus Harbor is where Denmark meets the global economy. As the country's largest container port, it handles more than half of all container traffic moving in and out of the nation, turning this stretch of coastline into one of the most important commercial arteries in Scandinavia. From here, ships connect Denmark to markets across Europe and far beyond, making the harbor not just a local facility, but a link in the worldwide flow of goods and trade. Along the waterfront, this industrial backbone is matched by bold modern design. The iceberg, or isbjørget, rises from the harbor like a cluster of frozen peaks, its sharp white triangular forms reflecting the light and water around it. Blue-tinted glass balconies give the buildings a cool, almost glacial appearance, making the complex look as though it is floating above the sea. Nearby, the Lighthouse Tower, the tallest building in Denmark, stands directly at the water's edge, offering sweeping views across Aarhus Bay and the city skyline, where modern architecture and maritime tradition meet in a single, constantly moving landscape. Ahead, the landscape stretches endlessly as we step onto the Jutland Peninsula. This is where the heartbeat of the kingdom is hidden within ancient pine forests and the silent shifting of colossal sand dunes. Jutland is the only part of Denmark physically connected to mainland Europe, and it has long served as the bridge between the Scandinavian world and the rest of the continent. Across its wide plains and quiet towns, the roots of the Danish nation run deeper than almost anywhere else in the country. At the center of this history lies Jelling, a UNESCO World Heritage Site often called the birthplace of Denmark. Here stand two large burial mounds and a pair of rune stones carved more than 1,000 years ago. These stones were raised by a Viking king to declare the unification of the Danish people into a single kingdom and to record their transition from the Old Norse gods such as Odin and Thor to Christianity. Located in the heart of the Jutland Peninsula, the town of Billund is the birthplace of one of the most powerful brands on the planet, Lego. It is not only the global headquarters, but also home to the world's first original Legoland park. Open to visitors in the late 60s, Legoland Billund has quickly evolved from a theme park into a global cultural icon. At the center of the park lies Miniland, the oldest and most iconic area of Legoland. More than 20 million Lego bricks were used here to recreate famous landmarks from Denmark and around the world at a scale of 1 to 20. Visitors can walk past a detailed version of Copenhagen's Nyhavn, the Amalienborg Palace, and the historic town of Ribe, all built brick by brick with remarkable precision. What brings Miniland to life are the tiny ships moving through the harbors, cars rolling on the streets, and airplanes slowly moving across the miniature airports, transforming this miniature world into a vibrant model of the real world. Located in the southwest of the Jutland Peninsula, Ribe is officially recognized as Denmark's oldest town, with a history dating back to the early 8th century. Once a thriving Viking port and an important trading center in medieval northern Europe, the site now serves as a living record of the kingdom's urban planning and architectural heritage spanning over a millennium. As the oldest town in Denmark, it is filled with more than 100 protected historic houses, many of them gently leaning with age, lining narrow, winding streets that seem to follow no modern plan. Red brick walls, small windows, brightly painted doors, and pots of blooming geraniums give the town a warmth that feels quietly personal. At the center of Ribe rises the Ribe Cathedral, the oldest cathedral in the country and one of its most distinctive. Its long stone structure combines Romanesque and Gothic design, with 5 interior aisles that make it unlike any other church in Denmark. From here, the town's story stretches both upward and outward at the Commoner's Tower, where visitors climb 248 steps to reach the bell tower. From the top, the view opens across Ribe's red rooftops and out toward the wide wetlands of the Wadden Sea National Park. Beyond the rooftops of Ribe, the land begins to dissolve into water, and Denmark enters one of its most extraordinary natural worlds. The Wadden Sea National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is the country's largest and most important protected ecosystem. This is not a single beach, but a vast tidal landscape where mudflats, sandbanks, and shallow waters expand and retreat with the rhythm of the sea, completely redrawing the boundary between land and ocean. In spring and autumn, the ever-changing sky above this world becomes a gathering place for millions of starlings that congregate and move as a unified whole, forming gigantic, graceful shapes that curl across the sky and obscure the sun. The Danes call this phenomenon sort sol, or black sun, a moment when the horizon itself seems to come alive. The indigenous people call this natural phenomenon sort sol, meaning black sun. Their massive concentration obscures the sunlight, transforming it into a magical, moving space. In between these tidal flats and migrating birds, wide fields of yellow rapeseed flowers bloom across the surrounding countryside, adding a bright layer of color to a landscape that is constantly in motion. What happens when the last remaining strip of land narrows and becomes a small sandbar caught between two oceans? Continuing our journey toward the far north of Denmark, Jutland slowly breaks apart into wind, sand, and sea. This region is often called the Land of Light and the End of the Continent, a place where nature becomes harsher, more open, and almost unreal. One of the most striking examples is Råbjerg Mile, the largest moving sand dune in northern Europe. Covering nearly 2 square miles and holding more than 140 million cubic feet of sand, causing widespread topographic changes. Driven by strong western winds, the dune travels between 50 and 60 feet every year, slowly swallowing vegetation and anything else in its path. Scientists believe that within the next 1 to 2 centuries, it will eventually cover the main road leading into the town of Skagen. Nearby stands Råbjerg Knude Lighthouse, built in the late 1900s on a cliff more than 200 feet above the sea. Over time, shifting dunes buried the base of the lighthouse so deeply that ships could no longer see its beam, forcing it to shut down in the late 1960s. As erosion threatened to send the entire structure into the ocean, Denmark carried out a remarkable engineering effort in the late 2010s, lifting the lighthouse onto rails and moving it more than 200 feet inland to save it from collapse. Farther north lies Greenland, the very tip of Denmark, where the Skagerrak and Kattegat seas collide. Because the waters have different salt levels and densities, they do not blend right away, creating a visible line where waves crash into each other along the beach. Standing here, it is possible to place one foot in the North Sea and the other in the Baltic. The clarity of the light in this region is so distinctive that it once drew famous painters to Skagen in the 1900s, inspiring an entire movement devoted to capturing this unique glow. Not far from the coast lie the ruins of the church drifting away by the sand, St. Laurenti Kirke. Once the largest church in the area, it was slowly overtaken by drifting sand in the late 1800s. People kept digging their way inside until the struggle became impossible, and by the end of that century, the building was abandoned. Today, only the tower remains, rising above the sand dunes, standing isolated on the barren land. Far out in the Baltic Sea, closer to Sweden and Poland than to mainland Denmark, lies Bornholm, an island often called the Baltic's hidden gem. Isolated and self-contained, it feels unlike anywhere else in the country. The northern coast rises sharply into solid granite cliffs, shaped by wind and waves, while the south softens into long beaches of fine white sand, giving the island a dramatic range of landscapes within a small space. At the heart of Bornholm's history stands Hammershus, a vast stone fortress perched high above the sea. Built in the 1300s around the middle of that century, it grew into the largest castle ruin in northern Europe. From cliffs rising more than 240 feet above the Baltic, its walls once commanded a clear view of passing ships and sea routes below. For centuries, Hammershus was fought over by Danish kings and the Catholic Church. Whoever controlled this fortress controlled trade across the Baltic. Its defenses were so strong that it was rarely taken by direct military force, standing instead as a symbol of authority, endurance, and the strategic importance of this remote island at the crossroads of northern Europe. Far out in the North Atlantic between Norway and Iceland, the Faroe Islands form a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. Yet everything about this place feels separate from the mainland. Here, sheer cliffs plunge straight into the ocean, waterfalls spill directly into crashing waves, and daily life moves at a pace set by wind, weather, and the sea. At the center of the islands lies Tórshavn, one of the smallest capitals in the world. Built along a sheltered harbor on the island of Streymoy, it serves as the political, economic, and cultural heart of the Faroes. Yet it feels more like a quiet coastal town than a capital, with grass-roofed houses blending into the hills and a closeness between people that reflects island life. Until the late 1980s, there were no traffic lights here at all, a small detail that captures the spirit of a place where simplicity, community, and nature continue to define everyday life. On the map of the Faroe Islands, Vágar Island boasts one of the most impressive hydrological wonders of the North Atlantic, the Múlafossur Falls. Here, water does not wind through a valley or disappear into a river. It drops cleanly from a cliff nearly 100 feet high, falling straight into the deep blue of the North Atlantic. Below the surrounding mountains sits the small village of Gásadalur, its houses tucked low against the wind, as if watching the waterfall pass by each day. What makes Múlafossur iconic is not just its height, but its setting, the way fresh water meets open ocean without pause, framed by sheer rock, moving clouds, and restless waves. On the hydrographic map of the Faroe Islands, Lake Sørvágsvatn is formed as a testament to the arrangement of volcanic strata. It is the largest lake in the archipelago, surrounded by sheer basalt cliffs, the most famous of which is Trellanipa Peak. The water level here is only slightly higher than sea level, yet the alignment of the cliff shoreline creates one of the most striking optical illusions in the North Atlantic. Trellanipan carries a darker name, the Slave Cliff. According to Viking-era lore, this was a place of judgment, where the old and the weak were cast into the sea from heights reaching nearly 466 feet. Today, the view is breathtaking and unsettling in equal measure, a reminder that beauty and brutality often share the same ground in Faroe's history. At the lake's far end, fresh water funnels through a narrow rock channel and plunges into the ocean as Búsdalafossur. Around the falls, massive black basalt columns rise from the coast, clear evidence of the island's volcanic origins and the raw forces that shape them. Across these cliffs and hillsides, Faroe sheep roam freely. The name Faroe itself comes from an Old Norse term meaning sheep islands, and even today their numbers outstrip the human population. With thick, windproof wool, they appear everywhere, on sea-facing slopes, along mountain ridges, and even atop grass-roofed houses. Our journey to explore the Kingdom of Denmark officially reaches its most magnificent conclusion in Greenland, the world's largest island. Beyond the boundaries of ancient towns and basalt cliffs, this place opens up an era of perpetual ice and endless ocean. This is a place of permanent ice and fragile balance, where communities have learned to live in harmony with extreme conditions. Nowhere is this more visible than the Ilulissat ice fjord, Greenland's most famous natural wonder and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here, the glacier Sermek Kujalek pushes relentlessly toward the sea. It is the most active glacier in the Northern Hemisphere outside Antarctica, releasing millions of tons of ice into the fjord each day. Towering icebergs, some as tall as multi-story buildings, drift slowly through Disco Bay, glowing in deep blues and ghostly whites as they rotate and fracture with the tides. Further north, the scene becomes even more vivid at Iki Glacier, one of Greenland's most rapidly breaking glaciers. Here, massive walls of ice collapsed directly into the sea without warning. Before the ice fell, a cracking sound echoed across the fjord. The sound of structural instability under the pressure of its immense weight. When the ice finally gives way, the impact sends waves rolling across the water, powerful enough to rock large vessels at a distance. Faced with the magnificent scale of Greenland, a journey across the kingdom not only reaches its geographical limits, but also completes a picture of Denmark full of extremes. From the philosophy of happy living along the canals of Copenhagen, through the windswept basalt cliffs of the Faroe Islands, to the harshness of the perpetual ice here. The story of Denmark concludes where the boundary between the sea and permafrost fades away. From a tiny Lego brick to thousand-year-old limestone cliffs, this kingdom continues to write its epic saga of happiness and survival, affirming its unique place in the heart of Northern Europe.